This is clearly the episode where I get real harsh on the show because they've made so many mistakes that I cannot see how the finale is going to save this. It's too many at this point. I think it's probably going to end poorly and feel like a fizzle. This could have been so good. Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to the more formal channel, the Sword and the Pen, link up there. I'm talking about today Shadow and Bone Season 2, Episode 7, and trying my best to compare it to the book Ruin and Rising. I have been reading this book simultaneously as I'm watching the show, and finding it's very difficult to make this comparison because the show has clearly deviated from the source material. But let's get into it as best I can with what we have, which is kind of a disaster. In my opinion, this is not looking good for the finale of this series. Before anything else, I am going to do another video after I finish watching episode 8. So I'll do a review and comparison kind of like I've been doing this way, but I want your questions. So any questions that you have about the book series, specifically the Shadow and Bone series, and I'll hopefully have Six of Crows completed at that point. Maybe I'll have started on Crooked Kingdom. And just something, anything that you would have liked to have me discuss in more depth, and I will address it directly. So ask your questions, put it in the comments down below, and if somebody has asked a question that you would like to know more about, make sure to hit the like on, their comment so that way I know, oh, this is one that everybody really wanted to know about. And yeah, I guess that's it. So in the beginning, the first thing that we have is Kiergan talking to some of his Grisha. And I've been wondering all this time, who the heck is this gothic waterbender girl who's been, gothic goth waterbender girl who's been hanging out with them? She seems to have no fear of talking back to Kiergan or, questioning what he's doing, giving him attitude. And we've got nothing. So I've lost interest in her. But now all of a sudden he is talking to her and brings up her backstory, which is, remember how much your parents, made this big high demand, like, we're going to sell her to you. But I guess they asked for an ungodly amount of money. And she's like, oh, well, I hope that I can pay that back now. And then he goes, I have always known you are worth so much more. And I'm going, why do I care about any of this stuff, first of all? I mean, here's what I think's happening. She's going to die. And it's very obvious, which when we get to the end of the episode, yes, she dies. And you're seeing this happen with a lot of characters where it feels like they're doing last minute attempts to create some sort of an affinity for certain characters or empathy for them. But it's too late, man. I mean, your chance is over. We had all this time with Kiergan and him doing basically nothing when we could have been doing maybe this kind of thing, like have Kiergan doing his own mission and then have, his Grisha having interactions with him and these conversations come up. Instead, I just don't care about them. Anyway, that was a major problem. Now, in the book, we don't have any Kiergan stuff whatsoever. It's all from Alina's viewpoint. And I will say this, she spends a lot of time with the Grisha in her group, just kind of traveling. They are going from point A to point B. Seems to be, maybe it's just because it stood out so much in my head and I've been trying to whiz through it as fast as I can. So I've been really short on reading time, and so I'm just sort of rushing through it when I do get the opportunity. And I feel like there's been a lot of time for character development. We've seen camaraderie building up with the Grisha, which is quite nice. But you didn't get any of that with any of Kiergan's people. And it's as if they didn't read the source material and learn that this is a thing you do. You take your time building up relationships. You don't throw it in at the very last second so that when you kill them off, the audience goes, oh, that's a shame. I liked that character. We didn't care about that character. We just got to know them. And in the meantime, you've got, for some reason, she's super evil. And all the Grisha in his little group are super evil. They, one who's playing with fire and like grinning and looking at her fire and how powerful she is and all this stuff. It just feels like a caricature of a villain. And they're trying so hard to create dimension in these characters, the show is, that to do this feels very cartoonish. So I would have said, don't do that right away. And it was my sister who pointed that out. She said, why are they being so evil? And I go, yeah, how come? Even though I like a good, pure evil villain, this is not what they've been trying to do. It's very weird. I have a lot of conflicting feelings about these last 2 episodes, and it's mainly because I feel like there's some inconsistency and some shoddy writing going on. Now, somebody mentioned in the comments that there's a lot of cut scenes. Like, they thought they were going to have a lot more time to, do what they wanted to do. And I'm wondering if some of that was spent on things like this, on creating relationships between the characters that didn't really seem to be there. And you know what? We saw this actually in the Grisha with Alina's group too. Who was it? It was Nadia and Tamar seemed to be like they're going to get together. And we saw 0 of that up to this. It was Nadia and Tamar were helping Alina to train, but we didn't see the 2 of them having much of a relationship. So again, I felt like this was just sort of thrown out there. It's very dissatisfying. Although, I was surprised that neither of them died. Did either of them die in this episode? I don't think they did. So maybe they'll die in the last episode. Somebody's going to die. It's probably going to be Nadia because I think Tamar's been built up better than Nadia at this point. So, another thing about Kerrigan. Why did he tell all of his own Grisha about Mal being the Firebird? Like, I don't know why, but it bugged me a lot that was something that he decided to share with everybody. I feel like this is one of those top secret pieces of information. Anyway, okay, I have a problem with this projection that Kerrigan does with Mal. We know through Alina's interactions with Kerrigan and Bagra's interactions with Kerrigan that you can harm each other physically with these projections. So why doesn't Mal kill or why doesn't Kerrigan kill Mal now? Why, Mal's in the bath, right? Why didn't he kill him? Why didn't he just do the little slice thing and there you go, the end? That was a big loophole that was bad. I think if I was going to do this scene, how would I fix this? Okay, first of all, Kerrigan trying to tempt Mal, saying, why don't you just leave? That was weak. That was the weakest ass temptation I've ever seen. They shouldn't have done it at all, okay? I did like that Mal says you've got nothing, and that's why you have nothing to lose, is because you're literally alone. I like that. But again, the effect of it was lost because they've built Kerrigan up as being the evil villain so much. I mean, I know they keep trying to shoehorn in that he's, this sympathetic character that we should feel sorry for, but they've lost it. They've lost too much of that. At this point, I don't feel any sympathy for Kerrigan at all. We really should have seen the pain and the loneliness in him, not just him worrying about his headache, which seems to be, that was his primary focus here, and then trying to tempt Alina. Like, let's see some real genuine desire on his part, wanting to be with Alina because he is, alone without somebody else who is eternal. And now his mother's dead. He really is alone. So how would I have done this different? I would have had Mal somehow be strong enough to expel him from his thoughts. Like, even though this was Kerrigan doing the diving, like Mal somehow is more resistant to letting Kerrigan in. And it would have to do with the whole thing that Bagra said, where, you let Kerrigan in. Anytime that you're thinking about him, that's why he's able to get in. So this would make a lot more sense with Mal, because Mal has absolutely zero affinity towards Kerrigan, right? Nothing. Maybe he was caught in a thought of, I'm related to that guy. He's like my cousin. And that's like, but that's it. But then he's like, I don't want you in my head. And he's out and he has no reason to think about him anymore. That would have been a believable explanation. Not perfect, but it would have been much better than Kerrigan not deciding he's going to just kill Mal at this point. Because that's what happened, that's what should have happened and did not happen. I enjoyed the interactions between Alina and Nikolai in this episode. I thought that they were good. I think it's built up pretty well, that there's a very good, strong friendship there. And I also really like that we finally have a reveal about Nikolai, that his feelings for Alina are real, that they are genuine. But I, again, wish that this was something that was maybe hinted at a little more powerfully in previous episodes. Now, there was one moment in the chapel where Alina decided she was going to go off, and I forget what the heck she was. Oh yeah, she was going off with Bagra and Mal to find the Firebird, and that's when she got the compass. And you saw Nikolai kind of sitting there alone. It was vague as to what was going on in his head. And I guess you could interpret it as he wished that she loved him. But I was more getting the impression that he feels like he's alone in his fight for Ravka. Like as much as, it's her and him, in their separate roles, he kind of he's on his own in many ways, because he's trying to take the throne or take back the throne or claim the throne, whatever, you get it. He doesn't have as much going on in his favor, I think, as Alina does, because she has this like religious following. So there's that for her, and he really is alone. That's what I interpreted that moment to mean. What would have been nice is if we had more shots, and this is just a technical thing, just more shots of him looking at Alina, and we kind of get the impression that's a look of longing or respect and, stuff like this. We did have the conversations between them, but I'm talking about when they're not talking to each other. Like he looked at her and you could tell that there was something there. That's what I would have done. And again, we had it's a conversation between Mal and Nikolai on I guess it's the Hummingbird, even though the first one crashed, but it's a new Hummingbird. So I'm just calling it Hummingbird 2. And Mal is like, well, this is the life, I would love, I love it here or whatever or something. And in the book, this was built up better. Mal was a natural at sailing and whatnot. He was really good at, connecting with the sailors, and he enjoyed it a lot. But we didn't see a whole lot of that in the show. So they should have built that up more so that this really meant something. So that him pondering his death and, he's fated to die here, going, I could have done anything. And then realizing I would have liked to have done this instead of be a soldier, instead of being in this situation. I would love to have done this. You build that up. That's what this show is failing to do, is properly build up certain moments that really could have some emotional value, but don't because of the lack of build up. Then a Nikolai thing happened again. So Mal tells Nikolai to be worthy of, he says, Nikolai, don't worry, I'm going to protect her and she'll have all of Ravka behind her, even if you die, to sacrifice yourself or whatever. And Mal basically charges Nikolai saying, you need to, just make sure that you're worthy her, you deserve her, something like that. They keep doing this with Nikolai. They keep on throwing this question out at him like, do you deserve the crown? Are you going to be a good king? Are you worthy of Alina? He's the most worthy one out of all of them so far. He hasn't done anything to betray anybody. He's noble. He's selfless. Everything that he is doing is for the country. So this is having no weight whatsoever. This question means nothing. Now, in the book, at this point, Nikolai is it's hard to describe what he is. He's like a beast of some kind. He's like part Nietzschevoya type thing. He basically got transformed into a monster, a hideous monster beast thing, and he can't speak or anything. And he's kind of it seems like he's following Alina around, or like Alina's group around, but he's staying separate from them. So basically Ravka has no king, and Nikolai is a monster, which, and he would hate himself for the things that he's doing now, which is, I'm glad that they didn't do that in the show to some degree, but it feels like if he was a monster and then was killing his own citizens and his own loyal people, and then he gets cured somehow and now he gets to be the king, then he would have guilt about all the things that he did as a monster. Like he had some consciousness, but he was unable to control all of his animal impulses, something like that. It's still a bit weak. It's kind of a contrivance, but it would be better than this, because in the show, he's a good guy. He's only done good things. He's an excellent leader. People all like him. He's compassionate, and they're all like, are you going to be a good guy? Stop asking these stupid questions. They are hypothetical and we don't buy it. So that was my complaint there. Gosh, I'm complaining. Okay, so I really like Mal's idea for we're going to go to the fold and destroy the fold, because Kerrigan and all his guys are clearly going to be over at Karamzin. That's a good plan. And thank goodness somebody realized you don't have to kill Mal. I mean, to me, this is just too obvious. It's too obvious that you don't have to kill Mal. We have solidly established in the show that you don't have to kill your amplifier in order to have its power, right? Because Alina did not kill the stag. Kerrigan did, right? And yet she is the one who inherited the power. Remember when she did the whole, you can't have what wasn't given to you, and then she absorbed the antlers into her body? Why wasn't that sticking for her? Are you people thinking about, this is very frustrating because this show has done certain things very well, but it has also done things very cheaply in other ways. And it's like you see the potential, you can see what was almost there. This could have been the Game of Thrones for teenagers, except older adults might have actually enjoyed this if it was done well, if it was consistent all the way through, that you didn't have so many terrible last-minute throw-ins just to create some emotional tension. But see, the thing is emotional tension has to be properly set up and built to. You can't just you should like this character. Oh, we're killing him. Do you see it? Why would you care about somebody who you've only known for a few minutes? Why would you care about, oh my gosh, they're going to have to kill Mal, if you've already established very strongly in the finale of season 1 that you do not have to kill your amplifier in order to have their power? For some reason now also, we have had a flash to Matthias. At this point, there is almost nothing that Matthias could do to be valuable to the rest of the plot, except maybe break himself out of prison and somehow show up at this final battle. What is the point? I do not see the point of Matthias. They should have not had this character if they weren't going to use him for 2 whole seasons. He was literally a waste of screen time. It makes no sense that they would have this character in here. I think that they could have figured out a way to make it work if they had pushed things along maybe a little bit faster, but they decided not to for some reason. And if you're not going to do that, you gotta get rid of him somehow. I have absolutely no care whatsoever for the Matthias character. I know that he's going to team up with Pekka for some reason. I don't know why, but he's going to. It's not believable, but he's going to. And somehow Matthias is going to be, he's going to be the bad guy among the crows who's going to try to sabotage the crows, I'm guessing. That seems to be what they're going for here. And the problem with that is we don't care about Matthias. He has been a waste of space this whole time. I'm sorry to say it, but he has been. He needs to be active with the crows in some way for me to care about him. Because at this point, no. Okay, I liked David's plan for cutting off one of Mal's fingers. I still think he should have had a tooth, whatever. Okay, they're going to cut off his finger. And there's all this tension built up to that, and then the Nichavoya attack. This is a fake out. So this was a good idea, and they should have played it out. And then what would have been really sad is if they did it and it didn't work. But instead, they built up this tension like, oh my gosh, we're going to cut off his finger, and that will be how, Alina is going to absorb his power, and then, we're going to stop his heart for 2 minutes, and that'll have her, be able to whatever. But they didn't even get to cut his finger off. So this feels, it's invaluable. So when you go back and watch this series again, and you get to this scene where they're building up the tension of cutting off his finger, you're going to be like, oh, let me just skip ahead of this part, because it meant nothing. You just want to get to the part where the Nichavoya start attacking, because that is when something actually happens. And all of this tension building up to it was a waste of time. You're trying to keep the audience engaged in what's about to happen, and then nothing comes of it. Okay, so then you have the Nichavoya attack, and the Kerrigan extends the fold so that it envelops half of the fortress. And then begins some major issues that I have with this series, or at least with this episode. Okay, so Alina, why did she not create a light bubble around the fortress to save all of her friends that were inside of there? I don't get it. She's able to do it to skiffs and ships when they go into the fold. Why can't she do it around a building, which is stationary? Should be easier, right? I don't get it. Makes no sense. She did nothing to save the people inside the fortress. They are literally dying all around her, and she does zilch to prevent it. And she's literally the only one who could do something quite easily. I mean, What? Okay, then we had... I don't know what this was, but can someone please explain to me what this was? Everybody is outside of the fortress, and the good guys quickly run inside. The bad guys are still outside, kind of, and then they're attacking. And the one guy pulls a lever, and this like whitish gray smoke comes out, right? And I'm going, was that a booby trap? Like, was that a booby trap? And of course, the wind Grisha just blow the thing away. I don't know what the point of that was. It was completely worthless. And I don't feel like it was something that was so magnificent that only a souped up, amplified Grisha could have handled it. And fortunately they had some. It just felt pointless. Were we supposed to be in awe of this? I don't know. But it looked like it was supposed to be a booby trap, and it was pointless. Okay, I was super happy that Inej came to the rescue and was wielding the Neshyanyar. I love the idea of the blade that can cut through shadow, and that's exactly what Inej does. Inej is killing it. I like her. I want to see a lot more fight scenes with Inej. Inej has been kind of underused in this season so far. We had the assassin guy, the taxidermist guy, who I don't think he was called the taxidermist, but you know who I meant. So I was happy to have Inej coming in here and doing some fighting. And I really hope that we're going to see a lot more, because it seems that Alina has bestowed the sword upon her. Like, you are the one who should be wielding it. So I want somehow Inej to be the one who kills Kerrigan. I think that would be really cool. I think it would be a great way to tie the crows into this bigger story here. Otherwise, it is literally just, well, they went off to go look for the sword, and instead of bringing it back to Alina, Inej now has it, and now she's going to fight the Nichevoya. It would be so meaningful if it's not Alina who takes out Kerrigan, but it is Inej, because then the country of Ravka is somewhat indebted to the crows. Ooh, that would be cool. And then that would give them so much more power, too, back in Ketterdam. Like, maybe people would be coming up to them to try to get favors from them because they need, somebody who's influential with Ravka. I don't know. Okay, anyway, moving on. The crows have so much potential, so I want to see them used more. But then, as soon as Nina arrived, I wanted to slap everybody. So they decide in the middle of this battle to stop and introduce herself like, oh, I'm Nina, I forget what her last name is already. Why are we stopping to have this chit chat in the middle of a battle? And it was like not even an energetic engagement in conversation. It was literally like, hey, who are you? Hi, I'm Nina. Oh, that's, she's a big fan. Like, that's it. This was so awkward. This felt so awkward. I was watching this episode with my sister, and we both looked at each other and went, like, why are they chatting? Like, what is going on? Like, people are dying, and this is what you're doing? You're gonna have an awkward introduction conversation with some new person? This was bad. I feel like there must have been more dialogue here, and maybe it was ADR, or they decided to cut it out. I don't know. But it was awkward. They should not have done this. They should not have done this at all, because it just felt weird. And then the evil Grisha did something that reminded me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action. And now I love M. Night Shyamalan, but this movie was a mistake. I'm not going to poop on it any more than other people have pooped on it. You want to see the best rant on it ever? Go check out Hello Future Me's rant on the movie. But they did this thing where they form like a little miniature tornado around themselves, and they start marching, and it just felt so awkward and weird. One of the things that my sister said that I couldn't help but think of was, it feels like some college students got together and put together this episode, because it just felt sloppy. It felt like there was so much in it that was done to look cool, and then it didn't look cool at all. And that's the impression that I get, that there was a lot put in here for the sake of trying to look interesting, and it just didn't land. Then we've got David saving Jenya. This is great redemption for him. I was happy with this. I felt like maybe they could have, he could have fit in that little elevator thing with Jenya. It should have been a lot smaller, like she could barely cram in there or something. I don't know. But I like that he sealed the door so that nobody could get into it after she got into it. And of course she goes down. What is this called? As a dumbwaiter or something? I like that David does this, but I would like to have seen maybe some of the conflict with David and the Nichevoye, but maybe we'll get that in the next episode. I really enjoyed Tolia's fight. Now, I'm a big martial arts fan, and I was waiting for something like this to happen. So when when Inej came in to fight, I was excited there. And then Tolia comes in. He had a great little fight scene there. I mean, it wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but I was like, yes, we're getting some martial art fighting. It's going to be great. And it was pretty cool. He didn't utilize his Grisha power a whole lot. I mean, you didn't see, I don't know. This is a tough one to explain, but I was hoping there would be some creativity on the part of the choreographer or whoever the fight choreographer is, being aware that he is a heart render. And it occurred to me while I was watching him fight that he should be in control of body parts, right? It's not just hearts that heart renders can control, right? I mean, is that literally it? They can stop your heart? That's it? I mean, metal people can do, the Duras, they can control any type of metal. So if a heart is a part of the body, can't you control any part of the body, I mean, why? Okay, maybe what would have been really cool is if he has like some ability to use like his arm as like an invisible shield, like that he has some sort of a, heart render action type thing that he can do, and it makes his arm like seem like a shield. So he doesn't have to make contact with them. So he can fight with the one hand, and then he's got a shield with the other or something, so that and it's not a shield, I mean like his arm actually has a shield. I mean like if somebody else is approaching him with like, I've got my sword and I'm coming towards you, because of the proximity of his hand to their hand, it causes their hand to recoil or something. I don't know, just something, or maybe he knows how to, he can do like a slide out kick or whatever with his foot, and it causes the other person's foot to fall out from underneath them, where he doesn't have to physically make contact with their foot, but that's like, how the Grisha use their hands for things. He's discovered maybe that you don't have to do specific motions, or, like the heart render thing seems to be something like this. I don't know what it like. You get what I mean. I wanted to see some real creativity on the part of a Grisha who can control body parts, and now they're in a fight. And that didn't happen. We saw him fighting and then occasionally attacking somebody's heart, and then fighting and then occasionally attacking somebody's heart. It wasn't very creative, and I would have appreciated that. But I still loved it, and I also loved that Tamar and Tolia both knew that the other was nearby because the little thing blossomed open. I'm wondering if we're going to get Tolia's dream, his hallucination, coming in at some point. So is Tamar doomed to die coming up? I don't think so. Okay, this is where I had some big issues, all right? So Goth Girl has been attacking, she's winning, she's kicking ass. I actually really like that she just had like this barrage of frozen spikes like, coming down at everybody. But she's up against Jesper, and Jesper's shooting at her and doing quite well, but she starts winning because she freezes his gun. And I felt like this is very juvenile to do this. I felt like somebody really badly wanted to have this character or some character say to Jesper specifically, it's a shame that you're not, that you're not a Grisha, because then you would be gifted or whatever. And then he gets to be like, haha, I am, and then starts flinging buttons at her or something, which is what he does. That was so, I cringed when that happened, because I was like, this was clearly written because they thought it's going to be so cool if this happens. There was no build up to this. And I know people are going to probably tell me in the comments that like, wait. Jesper, though, had this whole arc where he didn't feel like being a Durast was a gift or whatever. Why would this character say this to Jesper right away? It's just weird. It felt contrived. It would have been really great if they built up that she's like super anti, oh my gosh, I always forget the word for the non-Grisha people, the people who are just normal. They should have had some sort of like, she hates them all, thinks that they're worthless trash or something like that. And I don't think we saw any of that. We just saw her wanting to win this war with Kerrigan. And this scene felt just awful, so contrived. So the next thing that happened in this scene that I did not like was Wylan has the poison from that room that they were in at Oval's, and he throws it out there and has the wind, what are they called? The wind benders blow the poison into the face of one guy. Why not everybody? It should have gone, but anyway, it goes to the one guy. And at the same time that guy gets blasted, Tamar throws an axe at him. And you get this image of the bird flying towards him. And he thinks it's a bird. And he's like, oh, pretty birdie. And turns out it was an axe flying right for his face. Very cool imagery. But that was it? You threw the poison so that we could have the axe look like a bird before it got to him? This was very odd. This was just very, very weird. And was he a Durast? Was he a Durast? The guy with the burn marks on his face. I don't think he was a Durast. I think he was a windbender, right? Something. Either way, it just felt like the only reason they threw the poison was because they wanted to have this special effect shot of the bird flying towards him and, him thinking it's a bird. I actually really loved that moment, but it just felt like it happened for no reason. It felt like they did this because it would look cool. That's what they've been doing a lot in this episode, is let's do this because it will look cool. And it just felt cheap. And then you have the goth girl, like, she's had her fingers blown away and doesn't realize. And then she goes, you're a Grisha? Like, didn't you notice him throwing the buttons at you? Like, oh my gosh, this was so, it felt so poorly written. This all felt so poorly written. I wish I could go in and be like, look, this is one of those stages of the story where you literally cannot go in and fix stuff just in the episode. You have to go back several episodes prior and fix it on the way to this point, because this is just, it was not good. This was the worst fight scene. This was bad. It was not a good fight scene. And I should have been like, oh no, everybody's dying. But I wasn't, because everything that was happening just felt so contrived. Okay, so then we get into the fold, and Alina is there with Mal, and she takes his hand and touches his heart, and they start kissing, I think. Were they kissing or sort of kissing? Either way, it doesn't matter. And it's working. Her power is growing. She's destroying the fold. Very clear. She doesn't need to kill him, right? And then, of course, you have Kerrigan walk in like a supervillain, like, how touching. I mean, oh my gosh, this is just... okay, so he comes in and he threatens Mal, and Mal notices, one of the Nichevoya is going to attack the girls, and so he starts shooting at it, and then Kerrigan throws a blade or a cut, and Alina throws a cut, and they cancel each other out, but somehow part of the blade, one of the cut things, goes into Mal, and he's passed out now and he's dying or whatever. And then just then the Nichevoya comes back in and snatches Nina away, the one person who might have saved Mal, right? So that's why she was taken. Now, this is my prediction. Okay, she gets taken away and she will be just out of reach and unable to save Mal. So then we're going to have to kill Mal. Alina will destroy the fold, and then we'll discover that Nina was, she was just like, fine right over there. Nothing bad happened to her. Because that's what the show has been doing. It's been like they took Mal, imprisoned Mal, and then the first prince died, and Mal is not captured anymore. Like, stuff happens for no reason. This is very frustrating with such a show with such potential to be destroyed like this. The writers really should not have strayed this far from the books, because at this point, yeah, the book is doing better than the series. No question about it. So somebody actually commented and asked me what I thought of the revelation of Mal being the Firebird in the book. Yeah, the book did it way better. The book was awesome. They went after the Firebird and they saw this magnificent animal, and suddenly they realize it's not the amplifier, and Alina is falling and Mal catches her, and that contact again is what causes her to, her power gets amplified, and that's where the revelation happens, like, oh my gosh, Mal is the Firebird. And again, we should have had, I think in both the show and the book, we should have had a lot more build up that the amplifiers are created by killing the creature and then resurrecting it with one of Mortsova's bones, right? Because that wasn't revealed in the show until literally seconds before the revelation that, oh, Mortsova resurrected his daughter. How about this? How about you introduce the idea that they have to be resurrected way early on, and then you have the stories, circulating about different saints, and you find out like, oh wait, sometimes they would say that there were like 5 different saints, but turns out 2 of them were actually the same person. They just did 2 different things, but over time the stories, they get separated or whatever. And then that way, when you get to the revelation that, oh, Mortsova had a daughter, and in addition to Bagra, and killed, well, oh my gosh, we even got the revelation that Bagra was the daughter of Mortsova in that episode, didn't we? Either way, again, buildup was not done in a consistent way. I have to stop ranting. I think at this point, so we are left with Mal is dying. So of course, Alina's going to have to kill him, because if she doesn't, then she's not going to attain his power, even though we have already established that she doesn't have to kill him in order to do that. And Nina is just somewhere out of reach for no reason, because as soon as Alina kills Mal, then she's going to destroy the fold, and then we're going to find that, oh, all the Nichevoy and everybody's gone, and Nina she had to be removed for enough time for us to kill Mal, and he's not able to come back. Except I don't believe for a second that Mal is going to be killed off in this. It just doesn't feel like they've built up to it properly. And I know that it's like, oh, but they've been dreading his death all this time. Isn't that some buildup? I don't think that the show, this is a young adult romance. It has not been built up to be the perfect tragedy that it could be. I mean, this would have to have been a much more grown-up story to have Mal actually have to sacrifice himself in some way to die, and I'm not seeing that sort of maturity coming out of this story. So I don't believe he's going to die. I believe he's going to have to be killed, but then he's going to, oh, you know what? Nina is going to save him. That's obvious, right? I think so. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. So Nina will have to be gone so that Alina has to kill Mal, and then Nina will come back and she'll resurrect him and save him. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is not good. This is a shame. This is a damn shame. Anyway, we didn't have a whole lot of the crows in this episode, and it's kind of a shame because they have been the best part of the whole series up to this point. Hopefully we'll have them more in the next episode, the last episode, although I'm still rooting for Inej is going to kill Kerrigan. She has to be the one who kills Kerrigan. She's got the blade, so she should be the one to do it. That would be really neat. It would tie them together really nicely. It would put all of Ravka indebted to the crows. I think that would be a great direction to take this. We'll see how if that happens. Fingers are crossed that that's what happens. But yeah, anyway, one more episode to go, and then I'll do a final video after my review of the final episode. And yeah, I guess that's it. Don't forget to send your questions that you would like me to address in that final video. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you're feeling really generous, check out my Patreon or my Ko-fi. And that's it.